Hey friends, welcome into Teacher's Practice. Now, this is a 45-minute techniques practice. What that means is I'm going to break down some of the details necessary, in this case, for a pose, but a techniques practice is really I want to look at specific things in action. Now, this is a practice I call not so wild thing. Now, we know the pose wild thing, and it can often be quite grand or expressive. And I've seen all kinds of different kind of iterations of wild thing. But I think what's really important is to make sure we understand the mechanics of movement and the necessary pieces that we need to do in order to rise into wild thing or to create a lift into wild thing. Because one of the things that are really important for me is making sure we're not collapsing, compounding, or crashing into wild thing, which is really, really super common. I'd say one of the things that I want to point out early on is for most people, the most common way I tend to see wild thing, or you might see it in the class, is people coming like from a down dog wild thing. Nat's here. Can you show me that? Downward facing dog, hands here. You might be familiar with this, but just this idea of feet together, right leg to the sky, knee bends and opens, and then oftentimes your teachers can say, okay, now allow yourself to flip over into wild thing. And you see this kind of action. Nat's going to do it slowly just to kind of make sure it's safe, but you kind of get this fall over collapse action, compounds into the shoulders. Nat can do it because she's strong and safe, but it's not really the best way to practice as you're teaching. Come on out. So we're going to approach it a different way, which is going to be coming from the ground up. And actually in this techniques practice, I want to show you it at the very beginning, and then we're going to do the practice. So now come to the beach. You're going to hear me say this in the practice. I'm going to say, come to the beach. When we get into this shape of the beach pose, what you're going to do is you're going to have this preparation ready, and you're going to do a bend and a wrap of the front arm. So you bend, wrap, then you're going to lift through the hips, push in towards the heels, then you're going to wrap and rise. So you have this action of rising and lifting and creating space into the wild thing, and it allows the shoulder to be really supported in the right position that's needed. All right, come on down. Now it's going to show you one more time, so you'll hear me say this in practice. Come to the beach. When you're at the beach, which means you're set in your prep position, bend and wrap the front arm, lift and push, as in push towards your heels, wrap and then rise. And that's going to create a lot more space and freedom in the shoulders, structure in the pose, and you can see from that already it looks more sustainable and it looks more balanced and steady. And that's what we're going for in wild thing. All right, gang, let's get ourselves ready and rolling into practice. And I'd like you to start, please, in child's pose. Now, as I said, this practice isn't kind of like a flowy, long 75-minute practice. This is the pieces or the components that you need for wild thing. Keep things very simple and just walk your hands forward onto the fingertips. Elbows can lift and just allow yourself to create length in the body. Straight away, you're going to see this line length. In that, if I'm teaching, I can helpfully move behind and lengthen the hips. But again, if you're just practicing this for you, it's about how do we create long lines and start to open the shoulders. Walk your hands to the left, walk your hands to the right. So you're just kind of giving yourself a little bit of space. It doesn't need to be too fast, but we're just trying to open up side body because that action is really important. And then you're going to walk your hands back. Now, again, I'm going to give you the pieces, and as we start to put these components together, hopefully it'll start to make sense of building strength and initial and intentional range of motion. Here's what I like to do at the very beginning of class. It's not the most fun thing to do, but it starts to really warm up the rotators and give you a little bit of focus on the shoulders. So go flat palms, elbows up, and then just walk your hands so far away that your elbows are off the floor and you feel really extended or elevated in the shoulder blades. Keep your forehead down, keep your hips back like child's pose, and just lift your hands about 1 centimeter, just enough to get another hand under. Good, both hands up off the floor. And again, you can see already it's a bit like it's a struggle for everyone because I'm isolating the lift. And you can see already Nat struggling a little bit. You might be struggling a little bit because it's hard work because you can't recruit other muscle groups. And you just do that a few times, a few little lifts here, a few lifts here. And if you can sustain it, you can go up to like 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, but it's just kind of that feeling of everything's switching on already. Good, come on back down, come to tabletop. Whew. Right? Not smiling because it's kind of like it's a little bit unexpected because of the work that's required. And so you can do some basic cat-cows or basic spinal movements as you might normally do when you're working and warming up for a practice. But also what's really important is the things you want to think about when you're working with Wild Thing technically: shoulder opening, back bending, asymmetrical leg support, because those are the components that you're going to be using as you lift and rise. And that's the thing that's really important. This whole practice of lift and rise, you're rising into the Wild Thing, you're lifting up, right? You build a bridge from the bottom. You don't just tilt a bridge over land and let it crash on the other side and hope it's sustainable. That's going to create shock waves through the body. It's going to create more force than necessary. And when you start to put gravity in a position to speed things up, not always do we want gravity doing what gravity does best, which is accelerate and push things towards the floor. So what's really nice here, if you come back to a tabletop shape, is to do some sort of a shoulder warm-up. And so very simple things is take your right arm forward and then circle it all the way up and over and back. And just do very simple shoulder rotations. And you can do that 2 or 3 times like you're circling the arms of a clock. You can do that on the other side. And it's just this simple action of getting the rotation and the movement in the body and in the shoulders. Good. That's going to go one more time around. And then as your hands cut back down, take your right hand and put it behind your head, almost like you're kind of, that as if you were interlace your hand behind your head. And then just peel and open your chest to the right like you're threading the needle, but keeping your hand here. And then exhale, move your elbow towards your wrist, and then come back up. Do that a few times. All this action is just this movement of opening, of rotation. Good. Once you've done 2 or 3, you do the other side. So these are the types of things that I'm going to do as I start to warm up the body and start to build this awareness in the back as it switches on, and as the shoulders, they start to open up. Good. After this last round, I'll come back to tabletop. I'll lift the knees, so I'll tuck the toes, lift the knees, and I'll push back to down dog. And I'll come straight into plank pose and lower to the floor. Now I want to do some sort of a skydiver variation where there is an element of upward rotation and downward rotation of the scapulas. So we start that same idea. Interlace hands behind your head. So both hands interlace, elbows come off the floor. And when we talk about skydiver variation, what that means is the elbows are going to move towards the hip points. So release the hands and the hands will open. Good. So the shoulder blades draw together. Palms are still lifting up. Now lift your head, lift your forehead, and reach forward. Shoulder blades are drawing together. Elbows are down, which creates a downward rotation. And then all I want you to do, and Nat's going to do it as well, is you're going to go upward rotation. The hands are going to go over their head like a house, and they're going to touch above the head. So that's that upward rotation. Exhale, elbows down, just like you had them in a skydiver. Keep doing that. Push the tops of the feet into the floor so there's strength. And this is really now lighting up the back rhomboid line. The multifidus down the spine is creating engagement. And we're now starting to move with purpose. Good. As the elbows come down, pause. And then all I want you to do, and that's going to do as well, is just widen the arms a little bit out like jazz hands. Good. Now from here, lift the palms up so they open. And then flex at the wrists like you were going to push on a wall. These are almost a little bit similar to the shape of the arms in a Wild Thing. Now open the wings a little bit like you were going to kind of get a bit wider. Good. Now create that and almost imagine, now nothing's going to move, but you're pushing and twisting. So push and wrap. Good. Push and wrap. Good. Take a big breath in. Release everything to the floor. Good. Push back into tabletop. Right, so these kind of actions are really helpful to kind of warm the body and get yourself into a place in a practice where you're starting to prepare for these movements. Okay, right leg goes straight, stays on the floor, and then lift the right leg up, and then bend the right knee. So now you're making an L shape towards the ceiling. This is what I call a flamingo shape. And you'll see the flamingo because this is the body, the neck, and the head. It's like a little flamingo shape. That's what we call when I say flamingo leg. Now from this shape on flamingo leg, can I have the right thigh lift up a little bit higher and do just a few little pulses towards the ceiling. Now again, this can feel almost Pilates-esque, but what we're doing is we're lengthening the hip flexor line, we're lengthening and creating effort through the quads, and that's going to be a helpful action. When it goes into the higher position, stay. But as you lift in this higher position, good, keep lifting just a little bit here. Roll your right hip back to neutral level, down, down, down. Good, so right hip is going down, right thigh is going up. Take a big breath in, knee to nose like a cat, spine rounds up. Take it back to that same position you started in. Pause. Beautiful, take a big breath in. Tabletop, tuck your toes, downward facing dog. And what's nice about this is these little technical bits, and of course, if you want to do a longer class, you can weave these bits into a little bit more of a fluid kind of flow if that's you. What I'm trying to do is work with the pieces that I need to get where I need to go. Second side, knees come down like a tabletop, left leg goes back, then the left leg comes off the ground, flamingo the leg, Pilates the leg. It's probably the best way to think of it. Not a thing I was planning on saying today, but flamingo your leg and then Pilates your leg. That can be a helpful action. And that effort is really starting to lengthen and strengthen that hip flexor line. Good, on your next inhale, it rises. Knee to nose, exhale. Curl like a cat. Everything comes in, round upper spine. Good, send it back, breathe in. Tabletop position, downward facing dog. And so as you start to do these actions, what we do need to know is what we are going to need is asymmetrical opening through the hip flexor. We are going to need rising through the hips, and we are going to need strong grounding, external wrapping of the arms. Feet together, please. Right leg to the sky, bend the knee, roll the hip open. Now, for obvious reasons, I call this practice not so wild thing, is because I want you to not be so crazy with the pose, with the actions of the pose, and definitely with the entrance of the pose. So peel this right thigh open, Nat. Good. And create a little bit of space and allow that leg to just kind of do some hip circles now. Good. As they open nice and wide, we're creating space. But what Nat's doing really nicely, and you probably are as well, is we're creating structure. So we have a strong left line in the body. And that's really important. Good. Now, bring the thighs together, flamingo the leg. Bring that into a plank shape, keep the flamingo. Good. Now, Nat knows the flamingo pose well, so she has this idea of thighs squeezing together, strong activation in the back leg, plank in all the body. Keep everything the same, but lift to down dog. Good. Take a big breath in. Knee to nose, exhale. Inhale. Extend the leg, downward facing dog. And that kind of warm is nice for the leg because it sets you up to put you in a position to have that effort, that control, and that ability to move intentionally and isometrically. Okay, second leg, please. Feet together, lift the leg, bend the knee, roll it open. As you peel that left thigh open, this line of the hip flexor is going to have length, and then she's going to take some circles through that side. And again, part of this is really you starting to put the pieces together, and that's really helpful in a practice like this. All right, let's flamingo that leg, come through plank, flamingo plank. Good. From flamingo plank, take a big breath in. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, left leg to the sky. Downward facing dog. Wonderful. Drop your knees down, pause, sit on up for a second. Okay, as you sit up, give your hands a little bit of a shake. And I just want you to do this action, and I think it's a really interesting action as you prep for Wild Thing. There's two versions I'm going to do on the mat because of my knees. First, just simple actions. Like a camel pose, just lift your hips up. Good. And then put your hips back down. And just do that a few times. Inhale, rise. Exhale. Good. Inhale, rise. And exhale. Good. Pause there. I want to show you slightly something different. If you look at my feet, you're going to have one up and one down. So I want right foot tucked, left foot untucked. This is going to be similar to what happens in a Wild Thing. So inhale, come up, push off the different components, and then come back down. It shouldn't be too difficult. Keep doing that action, but I want you to notice the difference in the asymmetry of the feet. Can you notice that? Might be new for some of you. Good. And then switch the feet. And what it really is doing is proprioceptively, which means association and awareness of where you are in space, and intellectually, allowing you to understand that you don't have symmetry in your grounding, and so you're slightly adjusting in that lifting action. Okay there? Good. Okay, and rest for a second. And so we mimic these types of things as we do this lifting action. Okay, now this variation, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put one foot forward, so you're in essentially a seated position on your lap. Same idea. Before you lift up, take your right foot forward about 3-4 centimeters. Inhale, push and rise. Exhale, come back down. Walk this foot a little further forward, and then lift this front right heel. Good. Come on up. See how it's a little bit harder and a little bit wobblier, but again, it mimics the movement of rising into asymmetry. One more time. Love it. Try the other side. So all these little techniques, all these little entrances, all these little patterns is a big part of what I call blueprinting, preparation, letting the body understand things before you put a lot of weight on it, or there's a lot of intricate nuances. And this type of stuff, while it's not a direct mimic of what the movement is, it's a really good indication or insight into the movement. Good. And rest. Come back into downward facing dog. Well done, everyone. So this action now, as we've started to work with the hands, work with the feet, work with the rising action, let's come into downward facing dog for me, please. And then we're going to float forward into plank pose. From plank pose, can I have flamingo pose on the right side? So right leg lifts, flamingo the head of the hand. Okay, so here's now what we want to start to think about. Is not yet, but soon we're going to do a rolling rotation, as in the body's going to roll to the right side. Before you do that, the preparation needed is making sure you have enough support on this left hand. So just come onto the fingertips of your right hand. That's the first action I'm looking for. Good. Rest, rest. Good. Foot down, knees down, whatever. And so part of that is when you start to make sure you can shift your weight, that's really important. Weight shift is how we make sure we keep our stability. Don't just go it and throw it anytime you're moving into another position or another transition. Come on back up. A nice little helpful thing that can be a reminder is your hand that you're pivoting off is going to need to walk forward a little bit, 2 or 3 centimeters, which is going to put it in front of your right hand. Flamingo that right leg, fingertips. Good, beautiful. Take a big breath in. Hand goes down. Keep the flamingo, downward facing dog. Wonderful. And that's where we start to look at how this action moves together. Okay, now, as you come back into the flamingo plank, where we're going to start to move to, and actually, let's do it this way. Everyone go back to flamingo, downward facing dog. Pause. Actually, Nat's going to switch legs just so you can see what she's doing. So Nat's going to go left side, but you're going to go right side. And so for the sake of it, I'll just talk about it like you're watching it now. Nat's going to do it backwards because she's good like that. So everyone come flamingo plank. Lighten the load on your right hand. And then turn this into side plank. Don't put it down, just side plank. Good. Now she's going to bring the left hand to her heart. Now, here's where it gets a bit whoa, because it's strong. Strong outside edge of the back left foot. Hips are rising, pushing up against it. And all I want Nat to do and to feel potentially is a little separation between the thighs so the legs come off, and take your thigh to the back of the room like you did those Pilates pushes. Good. Yes. Take a big breath in. Get out of there. Plank pose, downward facing dog. So that aspect of lifting the thigh and moving it back is starting to create that hip flexor length where you now have to control that movement. Let's try that one more time. Let's do the second side. So Nat's going to do her left side and you're going to do your left side. So you'll see it again, even though she'll do it twice, but this will be helpful. Flamingo plank. Turn this into side plank. So a flamingo side plank. Hand to your heart, hips lift. Take your left thigh off your right thigh and then move your thigh back like that Pilates lift. You don't have to pulse it, just move it back. Good. Take a big breath in. Flamingo plank, down dog. Drop your knees down, rest. And so what you start to see when you do that is you're isolating the actions of a pose that's needed here. So when you're in this pose and you're doing this flamingo action and you come here into the side plank and you lift thigh and you take it behind you, that prepares you to move to the ground, which is where we're going soon. So those are the actions, or the pieces that we're looking at. Everyone okay? Let's try that one more time on each side. We're not going to the floor yet. We're not coming up to Wild Thing yet. We still have some other stuff to do in the middle. I want to give you these pieces. And the reason what kind of feels like jumping around through the lower half of the body and the upper half of the body is I'm well aware that in a techniques practice, you're holding stuff. Stuff is a big ask of effort. So I want to make sure you have enough juice to kind of make it through. Downward facing dog. All right, so plank pose, flamingo plank. And that's going to do it facing you all, but you're going to do it with your right side, flamingo plank. Lighten the load on your right hand, so you're coming on the right fingertips. Good. Walk with both hands forward so you have that space. There you go. Side plank variation. Pause. Hand to your heart. Start by straight away lifting your bottom hip up, lifting your legs apart. Pilates that back left leg. Beautiful. Take a big breath in, sustain, and release. We're all happy that Nat's here helping us out today. I am especially helpful. Happy, happy, happy. Plank pose, second side. Go again, flamingo plank. Great, you can see that. Roll into your side plank variation. Strong, lift that bottom hip. Lift the thigh, Pilates, so you have that action, which is going to move you into a slight back bend. Come on back, get out of there. Downward facing dog. Beautiful. Big breath in, long breath out. Good. Pop your knees down, cross at the ankles, sit back, and then push your legs through and lie onto the floor. Lie all the way down for a second. Let the body recover. Let the body recenter. And these little actions and pieces, when you start to put the pieces together, it's going to unlock and open the space that we needed. But the other component that we haven't talked about much is the back bend or the lift or the element of push or rise. So bend your knees, feet on the floor, constructed rest. And now shuffle down the mat so you're a little bit more towards me so your hands are still on your mat. And then go ahead and just take some bridge poses, please. Inhale, bridge pose. Yeah, and then release. Do that 2 or 3 more times. Good. Next time you stay down, lift your hands straight up to the sky like this. Flex the hands, both hands up, and almost create a little bit of resistance. So first you have this action. Then push your hands up so they elevate and protract. Lift your hips, breathe in. Good. And then exhale, soften the hips. And do that a few times. This is us doing a few things together, which are helpful tools. Beautiful. Okay, leave the hips down for a moment. So the action of Wild Thing, which we'll talk about now, in the arms, is a bend and a wrap. I'd like you to try this while you're here on the floor because relatively you're not weight bearing. So the thing to think about is this. Arms are forward at the moment. Take your arms out wide, not to the floor, but almost so they're kind of hovering at, let's call it 20 or 30 degrees off the floor. Now I want you to bend your elbow almost to the point that your elbows touch the floor, and then wrap, almost like your fingertips are wrapping towards the floor. I like to sometimes do it here near the floor because it gives you a little bit more understanding, like fingers to the floor, bend. And now that you have this, push. Okay, try that one more time. Hands forward, hands wide, bend, wrap, push. Wonderful. Release. Go ahead and set yourself up for me for a second, please. Okay, facing forward for me. I'd like you to just finish this movement off so it's really super clear on what's going on. So when you do a Wild Thing, a lot of times what happens, especially when you're crashing over from the top, what tends to happen is you're coming from this shape of what feels like downward facing dog. You do this with me. Downward facing dog is what your arms are doing. And then imagine you've kind of put a leg up, bend the hip roll over. What tends to happen is your arm, your right arm, goes out to the side like this. You can put your left arm down, it's fine. And then as you flip into Wild Thing, your arm ends up in this shape. So you take your arm straight back. What you're likely to feel is a pinching back here of the shoulder blade moving into the back body. Back spine, back body, rhomboid shape. And actually not. Can you spin around so we can see the back? And we'll do this left arm. So think left arm goes up, take it straight out, and then take it straight back. And you feel this almost collapsing action. And what happens oftentimes from this shape is then it has this lift, and you're now pressing into the acromion bone, and you have this all compression collapse here while your whole body weight is sitting on top of it. So this thing that we just did on the back, let's try this different. Release that, take your arm forward. Good, now take your arm out to the side. Now bend it. So with the generous bend, it softens this. And then as you wrap it, the scapula wraps under. Good, now what that happens with that upward rotation, or that downward rotation of the scapula, as you push away into support, the arm is structured in a position that's stable. And stability is far more valuable than speed getting into a pose like this. Okay, relax. So those components, as we push them together and pull them together, you'll start to see, you'll hear me say, bend, wrap, push, or lift, push, wrap, rise. And those are the components that happen together. Come back onto your back for me one more time. So just to finish the leg work, so we can then put the pieces together, is with this bridge variation, I want to just show you a few different asymmetrical entrances. So with your left foot, can you walk it one whole foot in front of your right foot? So it becomes right leg back, stacked, left foot angular. Come up into bridge from here, breathe in. And you're going to feel the effort is different. It feels more stable on the right side. It feels longer line on the left side, and it feels a little bit less strong. And so you have to redistribute your effort in rising. Good, release. Do that twice more, just so you feel that action. What do you need to do to give you that strength to move into position? Okay, and release. And then let's try one more variation. Move your right foot back halfway to your seat. Good. Move this foot half a foot further forward. So this is similar to the shape. And then go ahead and rise up, bridge pose. Lift this right heel as you rise. Now, again, this is not your classic shape of a bridge. Arguably, this is a whole strange variation of a bridge, but for me, it's putting the connection points of focus where we use them in Wild Thing. Come on now. It's not very wild, but it is very, it's relatively focused. Not very wild, it's very mild. Let's go with that. Inhale, rise, breathe in. And don't negate the fact that there is work here. She is wobbling, she needs to breathe, and you do need to focus. Come on down. Okay, let's do those two variations. Switch to stance of the feet. So regular bridge in the left, right foot is elevated forward, rise up. Good. And again, this foot has its normal bridge pattern of effort down. This requires a little bit more heel, big toe, forward but down pressure. Come on up. And then release. Good, second variation. Closer and further. Heels lifted. Good, come on up. And so you can really see that the pressing of the ball of the foot is necessary. That rising is lifting is necessary. But this leg, even though it's still stuck to the floor, it can't really do as much. So you really have to focus on this effort of control of the lifted heel. Wonderful. Good, and release. Bring your knees to your chest for a second. I always like to finish with symmetrical engagement or finish with this feeling of symmetry. So let's do one or two more bridges. Symmetrical bridges in a way that feels nice for you, not to open things back up. You might want to stay for a breath at the top or two. But what we've really done, and in the order I've done them, is we've started to work with the shoulders and open them up. work with the legs, create space and asymmetry, understand the flamingo, which is what we're going to use, look at the asymmetrical leg lifts that are going to be helpful. And this gives us those pieces, which may seem a little bit erratic at the moment now. When we put them together in our wild thing, should be really helpful as the pieces make sense. Okay. All right, everyone, find your way back to downward facing dog. Let's put the pieces together. We're almost there, and it allows us to then see how this moves in a nice bit of action. So the way that I like to work with wild thing is, I wouldn't say it's revolutionary. It's not groundbreaking. There's many people who teach it this way, but also I know many people who teach it over the top, as in quite big and extreme, and flipping from flip dog or flipping from three-legged dog. I much prefer teaching this from the ground up. It allows you to lift into wild thing, much like you lift into a bridge or a wheel. It's a lot safer for the body. It means you have a lot more control in your entrance. And in many ways, it's a lot more spacious. And here's one way I'd like to show you how to get there today. All right, flamingo plank sees Nat. Wonderful. Now, the way we're going to look at this, and just so you can see this action, is you're going to come to the side plank variation of flamingo plank, and then you're going to keep rolling and ending up on your bum on the floor. So as you can see, you have Nat here, which I call kind of like hanging out at the beach, like a beach pose situation, where Nat has her long leg on the right side, her knee is bent, her arm is rested, and she's pretty much set up ready to rise into wild thing. She's not going to do it yet. First, I want everyone to get to the beach just to feel that, and then I want you to get out of the beach, go back to downward facing dog. Because a big part of transitional stability is what's going to happen, it's going to help facilitate elevations and rising into this pose. Just so you stay on the mat, Nat, and you want to shuffle left a little bit, so when you roll, you're going to end up in the middle of the mat, just for ease of visual and making sure she doesn't slip in this room. Flamingo plank, we're all doing the same side. You're doing your right side, and Nat's going to do it so you can see. Flamingo the plank, roll and meet me at the beach. Good, so now as you meet here at the beach, you're going to set yourself up for this situation. Now remember, we have a long straight leg. We have this leg that's going to end up with the heel lifted. Now, here are the actions that we're going to do. You saw this at the top of the practice. That's going to do it again slowly for you. The way we're going to start is we're going to make sure our shoulder is clear of, the compression in the shoulder. So to do that, we're going to bend and wrap. So this bending and wrapping action is the bend of the arm, and you're wrapping the scapula under. Good. Once you have this, it becomes a lot more structured in the support. And for me, what I really like is for you not to lock this elbow out, right? You want to keep it bent until you rise into the pose. So that's what I call bend and wrap. The second part of this is lift. So the slight lift of the hips means you still have to now start the rising action, and then push. So the push towards this heel means this arm starts to activate, and the arm starts to take control of the stability. Nat's holding it nicely for us, but actually a lot of it's in her legs, which means she can stay, but not forever, but stay with strength. And what you'll notice for a lot of us is the shoulder's not as wobbly as it might normally be. The last part of this is almost like a reset. So I'll bend again, so I make sure I'm in position, and then we rise as we push up. And that push comes from the ball of that left foot and the lengthening foot, just like we did on the back and bridge pose. That's why I did it right before this. And so, yes, this arm is still pressing down. This bicep is turning outward. We have the chest opening, the heel lifting, the foot pressing, and this top arm is a bonus. I like to keep it at the chest. You can also lengthen it forward, much of muchness, but get out of there and come back to the beach. Come back to the beach. Good. And so when you do it this way, you break things down, you slow things down for a second, what you can start to see is, do you understand the mechanics? Can you stabilize yourself through action or traction? And can you rise with integrity? That's the way I like to put it. Can you rise with integrity? That's going to show us one more time. You're on the beach as well, so you can do it with us. So let's all do this. Bend and wrap. Lift and push. Wrap and rise. Good. And what you've done is you've explored all of these movements in pieces to get to this part. Take a big breath in. Now what you can try from here, if you like, return to flamingo plank. return to downward facing dog. And you see how that action works. Let's put these pieces back into motion. Flamingo plank. Come to the beach. Stop. So I always want you on the beach. I want you on the floor before you do this pose. Now, good. Bend and wrap. So lift and push, wrap and rise. And what you can see, and Nat does this really well, I'm sure you do as well, is there's space in the body, there's strength and structure, nothing feels jammed together, and the shoulder is having a nice time. It's actually supporting itself. Take a big breath in, come on out. Okay. You can go beach, you can go dog. Wonderful. Drop your knees down, pause for a moment, give your shoulders a little bit of a shrug. And it's supposed to give you the tools. This whole techniques practice is tools for, I suppose, helpful structure, tools for technique in how you approach these practices. Never be misled or misguided to think that there's only one way to do it. Never think just because every class you are in or every class you've taken, you go from three-legged dog. I would much rather you have a healthy entrance to a practice or a posture like this, which will inevitably be really valuable for your long-term understanding of a practice and more valuable for the long-term usage of your shoulder. All right, let's try the second side. For the sake of your shoulders, we want to switch side. For the sake of Nat's shoulders, she's going to face the other way, so you can do the other side, but you can still see. And we'll do this together. Downward facing dog, please. Flamingo plank. And then it turns into side plank, and then sit down on the beach. If you're off the mat like Nat is, shuffle yourself to the middle so you don't slip, because this is a posture that can be slippery if you're off mat. All right, let's do these things together. Hips are still on the floor. Bend and wrap. Lift and push. And when I say push, push is this idea of you bend both knees and move your hips towards your heels, and it actually elongates the line of the arms. It makes you do the work in the shoulders. It makes it take effort or weight, so it makes you understand that the control is there. Wrap again and rise. Nat does this beautifully. I'm sure yours is what's working for you. If you use these techniques and mechanics, it will be valuable in how the posture opens up. Doesn't need to look the same, but it can be structurally built the same. Come back to the beach. Good. Wonderful. One more time. Bend and wrap. Lift and push. Wrap and rise. Good. And that's just going to show you how the arm movement goes. If you want to take your arm forward, top arm will goes down and forward just to continue the line. And again, this whole thing is really about continually wrapping that front left arm, so the shoulder blade goes under the back of the rib cage and is almost helping to prop you up, just like that. Take a big breath in. This time, let's go to flamingo plank. Good. Downward facing dog. And so really, as you start to do this action of practice, you really start to notice, how is this working for me? Now, you might ask yourself, well, what happens if the teacher says, let's go from three-legged down dog into wild thing? I don't want to be someone who disobeys the teacher, or I feel like it's disrespectful. Totally okay. I totally understand. This is how we would do it. So you can do it again with us now, or you can watch Nat do it. You're going to go three-legged dog, so right leg to the sky. Bend the knee, roll the hip open. If the teacher's asking you to go from here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to essentially come through flamingo plank and go straight to the beach. Wrap, bend, wrap, lift, push, wrap, rise. So pretty much the same thing. You don't have to stop on the beach forever, but all you're really doing is saying, I respect my practice enough to know that this is what I need to do, but I'm not changing your guidance or direction, but also at the same time, I'm going to do what works for me. Good. Come to plank and then down dog. Let's try that one more time. Second foot, second side. You can stay where you are, not. You can do the second side. Everyone can do the second side. Left leg, three-legged dog. Okay, if I was the teacher, I'll pretend I'm the teacher. All right, everyone, I'd like you to flip over into wild thing, flip dog, wild thing. Go for it now. That's going to semi-ignore me, do her own thing. Flamingo plank, roll to the beach, bend, wrap, lift, push, wrap, rise, and she's there. And what's nice about that is she's finding her way through a posture, through the mechanics of tools that are helpful for her in a way that still works in the room she's in. Good, and release. Come on back to plank in the down dog. Drop your knees down and just settle in, rest for a second. That's going to face forward. And just give your arms a little bit of shake. I know it's not yoga poses, but literally after stuff like that, I'm going to do shoulder rolls. I'm literally going to self-assist or self-massage because that's big work there. You can do pec releases here, upper shoulder heads, because that kind of work can feel quite big. Coming back to a seated position like this where you're symmetrical return or symmetrical steadiness is going to be helpful in any which way that you put a pose like this together. And so that's what I want to share with you in this practice when we talk about not so wild thing, is really that idea, this simple understanding that a wild thing is not supposed to be wild. A wild thing doesn't need to have a crash landing or a big amount of drama in it. It simply can just have functional focus, purposeful entrance, and with the right techniques, with the appropriate tools, even though there's a lot of asymmetry in the legs and rising of the hips and rotating of the arms and moving through the shoulders, you can do this safely, purposely, and you can do it in a way that's really helpful for your practice. And if you're a teacher, helping your students understand that there is a purposeful way to practice poses like this that not only help them now, but will keep them healthy and safe for the long term of practice. So thanks for practicing with me. Thank you, Nat, for your help in practice. I hope you enjoyed this techniques practice, and you're welcome to watch this back. Take the bits in it that are helpful and interesting for you. And as always, thank you so much for practicing with me. I'll see you again soon.